All right, everyone. I got an email earlier this afternoon from YouTube creators, actually, and I've queried them on Twitter about this, and right now it appears to be a dumpster fire in the happening. Like, people are just starting to freak out about this. I'm not going to freak out because, like, verification on a platform, it's like Twitter verification. It doesn't mean anything. It doesn't affect search or anything. I'm Styx Hexenhammer. Going to be kind of difficult since I'm so well established cross-platform for anyone to actually mimic me. But here's the thing. YouTube sent out a bunch of emails. They're changing their criteria, their eligibility involved with the verification process. Normally, you hit 100,000 subscribers, you can submit for verification, and unless you're like, chronic rule breaker already and you're notorious for being, edgy or whatever, they'll give you verification. This is how you get your little check mark, so to speak, to say, yes, this is really them. It's always been about authenticating that the person represents themselves, and the idea is that once you've hit that threshold, like, you can get verified before that if you represent a business brand. Like, let's say that a major corporation just starts out on YouTube. They can prove who they are. They're already well known. It's just they just barely start on YouTube. They don't have to wait for that eligibility. For everybody else, for the little people, the civilian population, the 99% of YouTube, it's you hit 100,000 subscribers. They're changing that. It's funny because what this really amounts to is YouTube has been talking for months about wanting to take arbitrariness and eliminate it from the site, make things very easy to understand, very straightforward and cut and dry. What they're doing, though, here is they're taking a system that was extremely cut and dry. You hit 100,000 subscribers, you submit for verification, and you wait. That's all you have to do. It's that threshold. It's the same for everyone. Now they're taking it and making it subjective. What they are essentially claiming by sending me this email saying that I no longer meet the eligibility requirement is that channels are typically verified if they, and there's 3 bullet points, have built a large audience and community on YouTube, are widely recognized outside of YouTube and have a strong presence online, or have a channel name that could be confused with other channels on YouTube. My channel name can't really be confused for other channel names, so that one goes out the window, but I certainly fulfill the other criteria. Is YouTube really going to claim that a YouTube channel with almost 200 million views and almost 400,000 subscribers is not prominent enough on their platform to warrant authentication as a significant brand? I guess not, but then again, I saw somebody else complaining to the Team YouTube Twitter saying they had 1.4 million subscribers. They're talking about the post-million club, the gold play button children, a truly significant style of branding, and they're getting the same email. I'm pulling in between 250,000 and sometimes 300,000 or 400,000 views every single day. You look on Social Blade. They just, by the way, helpfully updated their site. I am one of the top 1,000 channels in the entire world under the news header. That means most of the stuff I upload is under the news category. Top 1,000 in the entire world. You're telling me that I'm not prominent enough on your fucking platform? Who is? Will Smith and Katy Perry, probably, I'm assuming. What a slap in the face to the average YouTuber. YouTube literally made a whole generation of well-known individuals and has spent the last 2 years doing nothing but abusing and insulting them, essentially. Well, you weren't famous before our website existed, or you weren't famous off our website first, so fuck off, essentially, is what they're telling us. I've tweeted to them, and then widely recognized outside of YouTube. Okay, I'm possibly the most prominent proponent of alt tech. I wonder why I'm getting de-verified. I'm an author. I'm an editor. I would say that I'm pretty prominent off-site. On Twitter. How many followers do I have on Twitter? On Gab? On BitChute? I'm one of the top users of Dailymotion at this point. I'm close to the top 600 users globally there. Prominence. Again, who therefore achieves prominence? What are your criteria? You've created an arbitrary, subjective system in which you're not being clear about what that even means. It's a totally subjective terminology you're using. What about, let's say, for example, let's say someone drives a huge amount of views, but they've got almost no connected native audience. Like, they're not, they go viral a few times, but most people, they don't subscribe, they don't interact with the content, they just get viewed a lot. What if a person has a really big community, they're a really social individual, they communicate with a lot of other people, do a lot of networking and stuff, but they have relatively fewer views? What's the interplay there? Like what relative value do views or user time, audience participation have to do? you know, what about off-site versus on-site? What's the ratio? How many YouTube subscribers equals a Twitter follower? How many books do you have to publish to equal a professionally released movie? What's the criteria? So you've taken a perfectly good system, the only beef about which anyone ever had would being the time they waited to get verified, and you've decided to cast it aside. Now, with regards to saying, well, YouTube used to be smaller, so it used to make sense once you hit 100,000 subscribers, you got verified. Now it doesn't. I can understand totally if they decide to up that and say, well, now it's 200,000. Now it's 250,000. Or there's a certain amount of views that you have to have, not just subscribers. I could understand that. It would make sense. YouTube has grown since they implemented the verification system years ago. YouTube has ballooned in size by an order of magnitude. Yes, it absolutely makes sense to up the ante and put that threshold higher. No offense to anyone who's at like 95,000 subscribers, still very, very relevant. But YouTube is a lot bigger and more interconnected now. But to make it totally arbitrary, especially to piss off the audiences of people when you absolutely know that YouTube is not being fully forthcoming about why it would delegitimize certain channels over others, and it won't just be based on these so-called objective metrics they're using. It'll also be based on the kind of content people make, who they compete with, whether or not they've ever criticized YouTube maybe. That could be part of it. Their political affiliation. How am I supposed to know? YouTube's done stuff like that before, not been forthcoming. Is this going to bleed over into the partner program? Are you going to remove people's ability to stream or gain any form of ad revenue or have longer than 30-minute videos if they have the wrong views? I wouldn't put it, I mean, you know, I never would have thought that this would be something YouTube would consider sensible. It doesn't make any sense. You're pissing off a large segment of your very popular creators for no real reason. There's no real reason to de-verify anyone you've already verified. Why don't you not grandfather this in? Just like when you make new rules and somebody whose video falls under terms of service 10 years ago gets banned because they didn't remove that video after 10 years of it gathering dust in their archives, you grandfather in new rules for older content with a totally different social paradigm going on in many parts of the world. It's the same thing. You're grandfathering in people who already worked hard enough to achieve that threshold. What threshold are you going to put it at? I mean, what arbitrary number how many subscribers do I have to have? How many books do I have to publish to show you, yes, indeed, I'm worthy of your notice and a verified channel? I guess I should consider myself cool, because the fact that I'm not being, verified, despite the fact that I'm massively ahead of the old system that they had anyway, 100,000 subscribers, I passed that years ago. Despite that fact, I'm still getting, stomped on by this platform that I've been part of for, what now, 11, 12 years or something? Almost a little bit of a compliment when you think about it. Because I have a feeling, this isn't going to happen to the vapid Y7 E-celeb crowd. This isn't going to happen to the clean kids of YouTube. It's not going to happen to Will Smith and Katy Perry. It's not going to happen to anyone who's represented by a corporate brand, because the corporate brand will, be able to partner in everybody else that's part of it, even if they're totally insignificant. Some dude releases a rap album. TMZ decides that they're the next big thing, and so they get verified, I suppose, even if nobody gives a fucking shit. Or a person swears too much, like I do, so they're not allowed to be verified. I don't take it too hard, though. I don't fight for verification. Ultimately, what you're competing for is time usage among people. If that's the metric, trust me, I'm way, way beyond most of these celebrities that'll remain verified by a massive, massive margin. If you're looking at, audience participation or having built a community, well, then CNN shouldn't be verified. They have no community. The only people who gather around their videos as they upload them are people downvoting them and telling them they suck for the propaganda that they make. Why don't they get de-verified? I think that would be much more worth YouTube's time. And by the way, long term make YouTube a lot more popular with, 99% of its own user base. That's about all. Peace out.